All right, hello everyone. Give a couple minutes for my guest to get on here, and then we're going to have a fantastic interview today. One of my favorites. What's up, Rachel? If you have any questions, please feel free to click on the little question box and then throw them up. What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up, Brett? See well, be well. Yeah, buddy.
Hello.
What's up, Brian? Can everybody hear me all right? Can you hear me all right, Brian?
Yes.
Super cool. So first of all, I want to talk to the audience. Thanks everybody for joining me on these COVID-19 real estate talk series. Something I just put together to try to get some different information from other successful people in our industry and push things along during the quarantine. Today, episode 6, I'm super excited. One of my favorite topics is social media. I got this guy on because he is the best first name spelled correctly out there. Brian, correct me if I incorrectly say your last name, Czapor.
That's correct.
Perfect. So if there are those of you, my followers that may not know Brian, I'm going to talk a little bit about him and then I'll turn it over to him. I would say Brian is at first I thought he was a rising star, but now I'm going to say he's a shooting star. I recently watched him on a Dion Malouche, Mike Hanlon Zoom call with another awesome panel and learned a lot of stuff about him. One of the things I took away was not only is his production skyrocket, and I'll let him talk about that, is how he gets it. And that's how we arrived at the name of our interview today. And that is, most of it is social media, which is how I get a lot of my leads as well. Buyers, sellers, sell homes that way, etc. So that leads us into the name of it. And it's not the size of your social media, it's how you use it. So Brian, tell us in 60, 90 seconds who you are, where you came from, how'd you get here, production, etc.
So hi, everyone. Thank you, Brian, for hosting me. I'm excited to be here. My name is Brian Czapor. I'm with Piatt Sotheby's International Realty, and I've been in real estate since 2016. And I've taken to social media. It's definitely the number one resource that I use to curate business and continue relationships with clients and meet new people and network with the other agents. So I've been able to build a pretty successful business rather quickly and utilize social media to do that largely.
So we're going to cover a couple of topics today. One, for our realtor friends, how do you, some details on how you procure leads, how it benefits your buyers, and how it benefits your sellers. So what platforms are you on, and what platforms did you put the most effort in and see the most results out of?
So number one, I'd say I'm on pretty much every platform, but I definitely utilize certain ones more than others. I think it's important to kind of find your ground that you enjoy the most. So for me, I spend most of my time on Instagram and Facebook, and I feel that's where I get the majority of my leads. I don't array from, not doing stuff on Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn. I think those are all important platforms as well. But I just definitely have the most success on Instagram and Facebook.
So give me some details. What do you do to procure leads? Like, do you have a post you do on Facebook every day at 10 a.m.? Do you share the same content across different platforms? Like, give me some juice.
So I try to keep it balanced and mixed. I think it's important to not put out the same stuff every day. People don't care that you sold another house 5 days in a row. That's great, but if you just continue saying, oh, I sold this, oh, I sold that, it gets kind of boring. So I think it's important to have a good blend. I do scheduled posts on my Facebook business page 3 days a week. So I typically always put out a testimonial on Tuesday. That way, people can kind of hear feedback from your past buyers or sellers. I put out a new thing. I started a video series called Tipsy Tuesday, where I do a quick video segment and I give a few real estate tips, answer some frequently asked questions. Anytime I have a closing, I usually share, as long as the buyers or sellers agree to it, a picture of them holding, my sold sign or something like that. I usually tend to tell the story of that buyer or seller rather than just saying, oh, I sold another house. I tell the story about the
Right.
Johnson family, and how they came to me, and if there was some unique situation that happened during the transaction, or something funny that happened with their kids, or I had a couple recently get engaged, so talking about that on their closing post, sharing the stories of these people, I think is important, because it's more about them and not me. Um, Aside from that, when I'm out and about touring through houses, I always am snapping, pictures or quick boomerangs, videos of the really unique properties I'm showing around Pittsburgh. And if you're familiar with the Pittsburgh market, our houses are all so different depending on the neighborhood you're in. So I'll feature, something cool I see in Lawrenceville, or an old stained glass window I see in a house in Shadyside, and just little simple things that I throw on my story. That I think is cool, usually gets a positive reaction.
So basically, you're trying to keep it interesting to keep people's attention coming back to you to say, hey, what's Brian doing today? I'm at a
Mhm.
doctor's appointment. I'm in the waiting room for an hour. You want to be that person that's top of their mind when they pop on to whatever social media platform it is. And the only way to do that is to be interesting, would you say consistency would be something of substantial value?
Absolutely. I all the time have people say to me, like, oh, anytime I think about real estate, you're the first person that comes to mind because you're
Awesome.
consistently always on my news feed or on my page. And like you said, it doesn't have to always be about real estate. I actually try to follow an 80-20 rule. So I share a lot of my personal life on my social media, my dogs, my friends, my family, different things I'm doing. And that always gets, a positive reaction, because people then tend to um, feel like you're more relatable, and you're not just a business professional, but you're personable as well.
Yeah, I was watching. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not on TikTok and I'm not on Snapchat. I'm going to claim that age range being in that I don't have, I'm too old for that. But I did hear Mike Hanlon say on your interview, I asked you that, or said that I should watch you on TikTok. And I think you've been putting your TikTok on your Instagram. I want to thank you for that, because without it, I wouldn't see it. And it's quite funny. The banana one where you're dancing with the bananas was great. So for those of you that don't follow Brian on at least Instagram, I highly recommend it. I'll put his contact info at the end of the video here. So that's how you generate leads, is by being interesting, top of mind, consistency. Have you hired anybody at all to coach you on LinkedIn, Instagram, social media? Have you turned over your account to anybody? Do you pay for likes or anything like that? Have you ever gone on any of those avenues?
So I have never paid for likes or anything like that. I've never attended specific coaching. I have gone to some trainings and whatnot at different conventions or masterminds with some social media experts. But until recently, I've done everything myself. I did hire an assistant just within the last couple of months. She does have my logins for all my accounts. So some of the posts are stuff that she generates and crafts up on Canva, or different graphics, and she posts for me. The ones that are kind of more on a scheduled basis, more personal ones, is actually me doing it.
Yeah, and I'm going to share. I actually paid a big company, at houses. Most of us check them out. They actually have a service. Well, it's very expensive. They will take control of your Instagram. You fill out a questionnaire, and it's non-contractual, but they do it on them every month. And I did it for 2 months. It was pretty pricey. I was seeing a little bit of results. But one thing they taught me that I didn't even think of is that when you pull up your profile and you have all your tiles of all your posts, you got to make sure those are visually appealing. And I wasn't doing that. I had some videos, high-end videos that Berg Brothers were doing for me, that started off with black. And I don't know why. It's only a split second of black that went in the video. And I'm just posting those things up there. And then I looked at it from my profile. I was like, oh my God, like I've got a bunch of tiles that have black. And
Yeah.
what that's going to do is that's going to prevent people from, we're in a swipe left, swipe right environment, being taking that interested position of clicking on there. So do you reevaluate or audit your social media at all?
Yes, it's funny you said that. I had posted sort of a teaser commercial video for my Tipsy Tuesday content, and before I did it so quickly, I didn't realize that I selected the cover as the very first second, which was also a black screen. And then I looked at my profile and was like, this looks terrible. So I think it is, you definitely have to pay attention to what you're putting out there. Something I recently did on your story highlights, I did purchase highlight covers from Etsy. They're super affordable, only like $5.99 or so for a pack. And then all of my highlights are now black and white and,
Nice.
you know, really cohesive. So it just makes it more attractive and you're more compelled to click on it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that because I've seen a lot of people have these very professional and consistent looking highlights, and I'm like, how the heck are they doing that? Because mine are a mess. So thank you for that. I'm going to fix that
Yeah,
immediately.
you can, there's an app for it, but I found it easier to just purchase them on Etsy. My assistant recommended it, found one that fit kind of with the theme I wanted to go with, and I think they look great.
Fantastic. So we talked about how you're getting leads from social media. Let's talk about for our sellers, or your potential sellers that might be willing to hire you. Do you do you have in your listing presentation? Do you have some sort of talk about it, or do people just DM you and say, "Hey, I saw what you did with this listing. Can you just list my property?" Or how do you sell properties on there?
So I definitely get a lot of people that just come to me because they see that I'm dominant and present on social media, and they off the bat say, "I want my house on, you know, your social
Yeah.
platforms." But when I am on those listing appointments, it's always a point to definitely talk about. I think I have a decent following for somebody who is a nobody essentially in Pittsburgh. I don't have as many followers as Brian here, but you know, I always point out on Instagram, you know, I have over 2,000 some people following me and viewing my content. On Facebook, I have over 3,000 people, you know, viewing and following and sharing my content stuff that I'm posting. So, for example, I had a listing I listed back in January, and I had they were under contract on another property, so the time is of the essence was very real to get that thing sold super fast. And I had just posted, you know, an urgency, please share this, and it got shared over 200 times. And we had
Wow.
5 offers on the property after the first day of
Wow.
showings. And the people who actually purchased it saw the post on Facebook shared by some mutual friend of mine. They weren't friends with me, and they called their agent and said, "We want to go see this property." So social media really is powerful if you're using it.
Wow. Yeah, and a little house call for those of you that are putting questions in the comments. The comments are flying up so fast I can't see them, but right next to that, there's a little question mark with a square. If you click on that, you can submit your question, and it'll pop up to me, and I can ask Brian whatever it is that you're, whatever question you have. Now, you had Brian. You touched on you don't have as many followers as me, and I mean, that's the whole premise of this thing. Is it's not the size of our social media following, because I've seen I'm with Remax and I see a lot of Remaxers out there, and some of them have like 22,500 followers, but only like 20 to 50 likes on a post. So it's,
Mhm.
for the general public that aren't as savvy as you and I, and people that just get into social media, maybe afraid of it, don't get hung up on how many followers people have. Like I used to get discouraged sometimes, like if I was DMing or commenting on another agent's luxury listing in California and they have all these followers. But how many of those followers are authentic? I really don't know.
Mhm.
It's just like an open house. And if you have 50 people come through and nobody buys, or you have one person come through and they buy, it's always about the quality, not the quantity.
Yeah, definitely. And I always look back at my posts that generate the most comments and likes, and they're usually things that are just very raw and real. Like I said, either a story about a past buyer or seller, or a listing where I kind of pour my heart into the description or something, or point out really cool features of that property, and they just get, you know, a ton of attraction.
Yeah, so okay, we talked about generating leads. We talked about sellers on your social media. What do you do with as far as some camaraderie with fellow colleagues like myself to maybe try to help out buyers? Like, well, I'm a buyer. Why do I want Brian Zaper because he has an awesome social media following? How does that benefit me as a buyer?
So I have this conversation all the time with my clients. I think it's so important to have a good relationship with the other agents in the industry, and I like to pride myself on thinking that most people in this market that work within our industry, you know, like me, and I get along well with, and so that just makes it easier for me to get my buyers potentially into some of their listings before they, you know, are actually booking appointments or something like that, or you know they'll send me preview photos or something like that so I can get my buyers kind of a head start on a listing that's maybe coming on. I'm a huge advocate for collaboration. I think it's crucial in our industry. Real estate is super competitive, and it's probably always going to be that way, but there's no reason, you know, that we can't all get along and work well together. Someone recently said this, and it's totally true. The pie is big enough for all of us to have our slice and take as much as we want or as little as we want. And we all have different spheres of influence. So, you know, the stuff that we're doing on our social might all be similar or the same, but we're putting it out to different people. And we work within different communities, and you know our friends and family are all different. So collaborating amongst one another, I think, is crucial. You know, I think it's important not only on social networking, but in real life networking. I run into agents constantly at events who say, "Oh, we're friends on Facebook," or "I follow you on Instagram. I love your content. I saw you were just at the Lizzo concert. That looked super fun. I'm a huge fan of her too." And then we build this connection, and it's like you already know one another through social media, but I just met that agent, you know, at a real producers event or something. And again, it just builds that relationship, so that way when we're sitting at the closing table, you're not twiddling your thumbs, you know, "Oh, how's the weather? It's a little frightful out there
Awkward.
today." You know, you have something good to talk about, like, "Oh, I saw you were just in Florida. That looked like a fantastic trip. How was it?" You obviously, closing day is super exciting for buyers and sellers. So trying to keep it upbeat, you know, at that closing table. And if you have a relationship with that other agent, then it doesn't have to be just a business transaction. It can be a lot personable.
Right, I agree. And I think the thing you said about the pie being big enough reminds me of a comment Preston Moore, who is big with Ramp and works for Howard Hanna. He said, listen, one agent can't sell every listing. One agent can't represent
Right.
every buyer. And there's plenty to go around. So,
Hmm.
and I think social media has helped the younger generation. I'm going to consider myself in the younger generation because there are some seniors out there, help us just catapult our business. I mean,
Hmm.
back in the day, those guys that didn't have the internet at all had
Hmm.
to work open houses and sit at the office all day. I mean, you're sitting at home now, we're quarantined, but I bet you, well, I mean, let me just ask you, where do you spend most of your time? Are you an office guy, or are you in your car, or are you home?
I'm someone who's always out and about, so this time is really challenging for me. And it's funny, a lot of agents or clients will say this to me, like, "Brian, you never stop, like, on social media. You're always here, you're there, you're attending this concert, attending this game, you're showing houses in this neighborhood, then you're showing here, you're on an appointment." I kind of like to be mobile, so my work day is always different, which is why I love our industry. Sometimes I work from home, sometimes I do go into my office. I love it. But a lot of times I sit at a coffee shop, or when the weather's nice, I'm outside somewhere doing some work. I'm constantly, you know, touring properties or doing stuff, meeting up with other agents, kind of, again, going back to that collaboration thing, constantly, you know, grabbing lunch, dinner, drinks, you know, with other agents. And with that, you know, I consider it still to be working essentially, because we're talking about real
Yeah.
estate. You know, they're telling me about their upcoming listings and what, you know, they have buyers needing and whatnot. So my day is never the same, but I like to be mobile.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I used to get coached by Tom Ferry, and he would say that you don't want to be a secret agent, man. Whatever broker you work for, get that sticker, put it on the back of your phone, your iPad, and your laptop, and go sit in a park and work. Go sit at
Mhm.
for Pittsburgh, sit down at the fountain in the spring, summer, or fall, and just start up a conversation with somebody. You'd be surprised how that could lead to business. And another thing I wanted to talk about, and let me know if you agree or disagree, is, you know, social media is become our resume as
Mhm.
realtors, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree with that. Like I said, we touch base on, you know, sellers or buyers coming to you because of your social platform. You know, if you're an agent who, if you search a hashtag on Instagram or something like Pittsburgh real estate or Pittsburgh realtor, and you're one of the first people to pop up, you just seem a lot more credible. And I just got reached out to from an investor in Seattle who searched Pittsburgh real estate, and I was one of the first agents to come up and continuously come up. And I'm going to be listing one of his properties here,
Nice.
and he found me through Instagram. So it definitely is a resume, you know, in of itself, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, I do have a question from Justin Adam Brown, and he says, I'm selling a home. What questions should I ask to make sure they're looking out for the seller and not just the buyer? Sure. So, what questions should a seller ask to make sure they're working out for the seller? I guess maybe I have to try to translate that. What questions should he ask his listing agent, potentially when interviewing them, to make sure they're trustworthy and loyal to the seller. Do you have any questions you
So
would recommend a seller asking in an interview?
first and foremost, that seller came to me first, so I think trust is one of the most important things when you hire a realtor. So if you come to me, I hope that you're trusting me, and I can certainly earn your trust. And you should just know, you hired me first. I'm working for you. I'm working to find the buyer. And it doesn't happen very often where we sell our own listings, because having a buyer and a seller that has the same thing just doesn't meet up that often. In a typical year, I only probably do that maybe 5 transactions, and so I would say 9 times out of 10 that buyer is being brought by another agent. So working with a seller's agent who has a strong social media presence with other agents to bring that buyer, I think is where you're going to lay best.
Yeah, and Justin, I'm going to add something. I'm going to tie into what Brian and I just talked about. That is an agent's social media is their resume. If you're thinking about hiring agent A, B, and C, first of all, you should always Google them. Second of all, go to their social media. See if they're on TikTok twirling bananas around, or at a pool in Florida. I mean, this is our resume. We put a lot of our personal lives in our stories. I don't do Snapchat, but my Instagram story, and see what those agents are doing. See what reviews are online of them and stuff like that. I don't think we have any more questions, Brian. Any parting words? I think we covered everything you and I had talked about.
I had a couple other things, kind of jumping back to the collaboration thing. I just wanted to say I feel like I'm definitely starting to see this more with the younger generation of realtors, like you were saying, but just supporting one another, commenting on other realtors' stuff, congratulating them when they close a tough deal, I think is so important to boost morale and really inspire one another to be better and push them to their limits. And again, it just builds that friendship even further. So I would say that was one thing that I didn't get to say. And I would say on social media, this kind of goes with the content you're putting out there. Social media is all about trends. So for example, taking the TikTok, there's always new dance trends coming out. And if you do it immediately, then you look like you're a superstar because you put this new dance out and you're one of the first ones to do it. If you do it a month later, then you're kind of just following the rest. So I think being kind of a leader on social media is important. So my team at Sotheby's, we just put out, a video, and other agents across the country are actually remaking their own version, and we think it's awesome. But being copied is really one of the finest compliments you could probably receive. So I always watch other agents, what they're doing, and I think if you like something you see an agent do, just reach out to them and say, I really like how you did this, would you mind maybe if I did something similar, but put your own spin on it, and then you can maybe help one another be better on both of your social medias. But I say that also on the side of, don't just copy what someone else is doing, because that's gonna in the long run show. If someone posted something on April 1st and then you posted the identical thing on April 5th, it just isn't a good look for you. So you don't want to get into that, and definitely want to blend up what you're putting out there.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, the world was built on copying and putting your own spin on it. I think if you're not going to be the pioneer of something like a TikTok dance, then you want to be an early adopter. You want to be one of the first 5 or 10 people to do it, because your following may not follow Brian, and they may think you're the originator, and you're not trying to steal it. But I mean, listen, Henry Ford built a car, everybody copied cars. I mean, it's just it's going to happen. I mean, when I was with Tom Ferry, I referred to him a lot. Is he called it R&D, rip off and duplicate. Find it, rip it off, duplicate it, make your own. Renee Zavatanos from your office has a question for you, and that is, what are your thoughts on hashtags on posts? You guys are doing a great job. So you mentioned hashtags a little bit. You mind diving in?
Yeah, so like I said, I actually got a client specifically because of a hashtag, and that's not the first time that's happened. I say it that you should stick to a baseline of hashtags. I basically copy and paste them on every real estate post I do. Good. And I use the same ones. So that way, if someone searches, Pittsburgh real estate or whatever it is, I'm constantly up there, and they could search through 100 posts that have that hashtag, and I have 50 of them. So It just makes you more of the expert on social media in your market. And I think, you know, hashtags are how people search for things nowadays. It's almost like a Google search. So you definitely want to use them and find the ones that you like and stick to them.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a little bit of coaching on this, and you got to think from a buyer or a seller's mindset. What, like, I used to put hashtag Brian Sells Pittsburgh, and sometimes I still do, but no one's going to search for that. But if somebody would, I would want to be the one that was the owner of that. But you got to think about buyer and the seller. Like, what are they going to search for? Like, right now, I've been in quarantine in Florida, so I found all these different islands, these luxury islands, and I want to check them out. So instead of going to Google, what I do is I find out the island's name, and I go to Instagram, do the search, and I put in a hashtag Star Island, and then I see people that live on Star Island taking me through tours of their $20 million home. It's like a gold mine. I mean, you can lose hours in it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't do it if we were back to work.
it's a black hole, and that's kind of how social media is. So I think it's important to balance your time on it. Like, I could sit on TikTok for hours scrolling through it, but you definitely have to watch, you know, what you're doing, because even though we are in quarantine, we're all still trying to be productive and work.
Yep. Yep, and some of the most searched hashtags are luxury and real estate. So that was told to me through somebody else. I don't know if that's still the fact now. It may turn to different things here and there, but I always try to make sure if it's a higher end property, I put luxury in, and try to always put real estate in, because if somebody's hanging out in Pittsburgh, they may search real estate or something like that. So that's it. We got other questions. There's no more questions. You got everything you wanted to cover in your notes there?
Yeah, you had mentioned Snapchat, and I really don't utilize Snapchat that often anymore, but when I first started in the industry, I got my license in March 2016, so this is kind of a cool story I always like to share. I was out for St. Patrick's Day, and I met someone through a mutual friend. We took a selfie on Snapchat, and he had tagged me in it, so we connected on Snapchat. And about a month later, I was touring through a property, put up a Snapchat story, and he DM'd me on Snapchat and just said, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. You know, what should I do to start?" And I was like, "Oh, great." And I sent him my lender's contact information over Snapchat, and we communicated over Snapchat to get the process going, and we scheduled our first couple appointments through Snapchat. And then he went under contract on a house, and I remember it was the inspection day, and I showed up and was like, you know, we should really exchange numbers now that we're actually working together and not just communicate over Snapchat. So I say that story because, one, it's pretty awesome that I essentially sold a house over Snapchat, but two, everywhere you go, I think it's important to make those connections in person and then connect with people on social media. So whether you're, you know, out somewhere, you're traveling across the country, connect with people through social media, because you never know when they know somebody who is looking to buy or sell in Pittsburgh, or if they want to buy or sell in Pittsburgh. Once you're connected with them, they're always going to be seeing your stuff, and you know, you can just keep that communication line going.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of negative that's been said about social media, but if you ask me, there's a lot more positive about it. So, I mean, I have a bunch of great friends I've never physically met, just through social media. I know them, so couldn't agree more. All right. Thanks for taking the time and, you know, sharing some of your inside tips. It was great to get to know you on that other interview you did on Zoom. And like I said, from a rising star to a shooting star. So everybody, make sure you check out Brian. Just Google his name, Brian Czapor, correct?
Yes.
Yep, and then follow him on all his social media platforms. You're going to get, you're going to learn a lot and get very entertained out of it. Brian, congratulations on all your success. Congratulations moving Piatt Sotheby's. Yeah, and I'll see you out in the field. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, thanks for having me. Great to chat with you. Enjoy Florida.
All right, thank you, sir. See you guys.